Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope that this finds you well. We're going to do a class today that's kind of a sequel to the Yin for Essential Workers that we did not too long ago. You could think of it as Yin for More Essential Workers, the sequel. My cat's being very cute off to the side here, so I'm sure he might make an appearance. Much like that class that we did, this is going to be very good if you are someone that spends a lot of time on your feet and you're feeling that in your low back, your hips, your hamstrings. But also if you do a lot with that upper body and you're feeling that in those neck and shoulders, you keyboard warriors, you feel it in your wrist. And I think, most of us are just kind of spending a lot of this time in a full body contraction and not really breathing that deeply. So props that you'll need today, a blanket is going to be very helpful that you could either roll up to be like a pool noodle. If you have a pool noodle, you could use that. You could use a block also. That might be a bit too much for the back bend that we're going to start off with. And or a bolster. If you happen to own a bolster, you could use that. And a block will be helpful for a couple of the poses. And much like that, the class I just referenced, if you happen to have some lotion nearby, it always sounds creepy that way, but if you happen to have some, that could be helpful as well. We're going to make our way to our mats. So we're going to start in a supine position with that blanket, bolster, whatever you happen to be using. I got to get my timer back up here. So the way I've got mine set up is I've got it rolled up pretty tight, and I'm going to lie down on this blanket with it kind of behind my back ribs. So it might take you a couple of tries to find the place that works for you. I like the blanket because it's not going to give me a super intense back bend, just a nice one. And your feet can stay on the floor. You could bring the soles of the feet together. I actually kind of like to cross my legs here and just let my knees drop. And then your arms can either be alongside you or maybe a little cactus or goalpost arms. We're going to go through it for a 3-minute hold here. Now as this opens up your chest and your ribs, let's take some deep breaths in. We're going to do that 4, 7, 8 breath. I went real southern there. So inhale for 4. Hold for 7. Through your mouth, a long exhale for 8. We'll do that for about a minute. Hold. Through the mouth. In. Hold. Exhale through the mouth. One more time. Hold. Exhale. You have those legs crossed, switch them. And then just let your breath land in its normal, natural rhythm here. I told you Frank would make an appearance. For those of you that are big Frank Sinatra fans. And frankly, who could not be? One more minute. What are you doing, Steve? You're blocking my shot. He really could care less. Oh, and then we have Ruby in the picture as well. That's Ruby's yoga. About 30 more seconds here. Okay, yes, there we go. All of the animals are dispersing now. For these last 15 seconds, go ahead and bring your feet back to the floor if you took a different leg shape. And then you're not going to just spring up from this pose. Roll to either side, doesn't matter which one, and just kind of prop your way up. And we're going to find an easy cross-leg position. I'm going to take my blanket and fold it and then set on the edge of that. Just because if you're feeling a little tighter, just sitting on the edge of that blanket will tip your hips and pelvis forward a little bit and maybe make that a little bit more comfortable. So we're going to give those necks and shoulders a little bit of love here. So by taking this left hand to the floor, if you have short little, T-Rex arms, you can put a block under this left hand. And we're going to drop that left ear over to our left shoulder. We are not trying to get the ear to shoulder by any means. And then I find I kind of have to move my chin around to find that place of where it's like, okay, there it is. And then we're going to take this right arm just straight out to the side in line with your shoulder. Maybe let that palm face forward. Frank thinks that this is his petting time here. And then press through the heel of that hand, kind of like that. Oh, goodness. You spend a lot of time looking at your phone or at a computer monitor. You hold your head very oddly in both of those situations. So you might be feeling it here. Then bring your chin to your chest and we'll lift up the head. We're going to wrap this right arm behind us. Now the back of your right hand might land at the middle of your back. You might be able to get it over here to the outside of this left hip. And then draw those shoulder blades towards each other. Find a little bit of length in the spine. And then you might look down towards that left side of your mat. This makes me make all the sounds. Let's do 2 more breaths here. And come back to the center. Free up that right arm. This is my favorite trick to do so you can see if it's working. Extend your arms out and your right arm's a little bit longer than your left. Let's reset our timer. We're going to take it to the other side. So drop that right ear towards that right shoulder and just kind of move the chin around there till you find that spot for you. Could be a different shape. I always feel like if it feels like I'm drooling out of the corner of my mouth, that I'm where I'm supposed to be. Then take your left arm up. Start with a little pop there. Start with that left palm forward. You could even do some rotations here. And then eventually you're pressing through the heel of that hand. Oh, yes, I definitely feel like I'm drooling here. I hope if you're practicing this at home that you just make all the noises and sighs that your heart desires. And then we're going to bring the chin to the chest. Let's wrap that left arm behind us. And then just kind of look down at that right side of your mat. Oh my goodness. About 3 more breaths here. And then the chin to the chest. Free up those arms. And if you do that, your arms should be back to the same length. All right, we're going to give these wrists a little love. If you want to switch out that crossing of the legs, go ahead and do it here. So we're going to do this kind of shape that it's a little bit, if you remember Mary Catherine Gallagher from Saturday Night Live, it's a little bit like that. It's kind of like you want to do hands on hips, but you really overshot. So you can bring the back of your hands to your ribs. Here, let me start my timer, because I'm already feeling that, you guys. So back to the hands, to your ribs. Try to soften those shoulders. Try to draw shoulder blades towards the back. And try to maybe draw your elbows back. Yowza. You type a lot. You know. If you don't know, you probably use your voice to text option. That never works for me. I mean, it works, but it never reads the way I'm speaking. User error, I'm certain. Ooh. See if you can lengthen the spine and drop those shoulders from the ears a little more. Maybe draw those elbows back. Frank has decided to pose for you all. Just about 20 more seconds here. If you're feeling like you've gone from discomfort to pain, by all means, tap out of this pose early. And then we're just going to free up those arms. Ooh. Maybe give the wrist a little roll here, flutter out the fingers, a couple of curls with the wrist. Now we're going to start to move into the hips, and we're going to add one more thing in for these wrists. We're going to go into butterfly pose. Now there's a kind of a cool thing that you can do where you can kind of interlace your toes together. This is where that lotion could come in handy, by the way. I don't know that mine's going to do it today. But you get them in between, the toes in between each other, and it's almost like a little bit of foot opening there. Now with the sole, yeah, mine totally are not going to work today. With soles of the feet together, bring your hands to the floor, fingers pointing towards you. And then we're just going to lean into that a little bit. We're only going to do this for about a minute. This is going to be for the other side of your forearms and wrist here. So find some length. I wouldn't go, completely rounded into it here. I wouldn't, just because it's not comfortable for me. But if you can do it, by all means, go for that. About 30 more seconds with the hands in this position. He's very handsome, isn't he? I'm only slightly concerned that he's being so well behaved. We still have a bit of ways to go here. All right, so then come up so you can free up those arms. And then we're going to hinge over these legs. If you want to stay longer in the spine, by all means do that. If you want to drop your chin toward your chest and round your upper and mid back, do that. You could start with that long spine and then eventually just drop into this rounded spine. This pose in particular is so good for hips, inner thighs, hip flexors, the back. If you do nothing else when you get home from the end of a long day, or if you walk from your home office to your living room after a long day, do that deep breathing in this pose. A little bit more than 30 seconds here. so then imagine that you've got your back right up against a wall. And so as you press that back into the wall, we're going to bring our hands back to our feet, and we're just going to start to roll up vertebrae by vertebrae. Again, you're not running out of any of these poses, even if they suck for you. So then when you're back up, let's bring those knees together, or just up. We're going to move into our next hip one called square pose. So we're going to bring that left leg down on the bottom. And you want the left leg, if you're on a mat, sort of parallel to that edge of your mat. You're not drawing this left foot up under you. Your right shin is either going to cross in front, or you're going to see if you can stack it on top, so that you've got the right knee over the left ankle, right ankle on top of left knee. And then you want a little bit of flexion in the feet. That's really to help the knees here. We're going to add some eagle arms into this just for about a minute, just to give you a little more release across the upper back and the upper body. So your right leg is on top. Let's see if we can wrap that right arm under and interlace like this. If this is not comfortable for you, just bring your right arm across from you, use your left hand to kind of do that. You could either just bring your right hand to left shoulder and maybe hug him like that, or you could just give yourself a hug. I feel this already. Now, we're not going to keep the arms very active here. You can let the elbows kind of drop down a bit. And sometimes I like to bring my forehead and my hands together, and that gives me a little extra stretch in these triceps and the sides of my shoulders. A little less than 20 more seconds with this arm shape. Then undo those arms and maybe just bring your elbows to that top leg. If you want to bring your hands to the floor, you could do that. And same idea of tipping that chin down, maybe on the chest. I would typically walk my hands forward, but my co-star today. About 45 seconds on this leg to go. If you sit a lot, this is a really good pose to do. You can also do this in a chair. You could have for this sake, your left foot on the floor and put your right knee on that left thigh and hinge forward a bit. And it gives you that same sensation of square. Bring the torso up, lean back into your hands, that is, and we're just going to go right into the other side. This is one of those poses I like to just get it over with. So right leg on the bottom, left leg in front or on top. Could be a different experience for you on this side. Left arm either across your chest or that hug, or seeing if you can wrap that left arm under your right. Love this between those shoulder blades. If you get that little knot between those blades, this is so good at undoing that. About 20 seconds with the arms. Then unwrap the arms, and same idea. You could just rest your elbows on that top leg, or you could bring your hands to the floor, walk them forward. If you had that bolster, you could use the bolster out in front as well to sort of bridge the distance between your arms and the floor. About 30 seconds to go. I'll give you a spoiler alert here. The next pose is a little bit more active. Yeah, it's a little more active. There are not a lot of people that love this pose. I have one person who will actually text me before a class and ask me if it's going to be in the class that night. And if I say yes, I almost never see her in that class. So we came to an agreement that we'd only do it on the 3rd week of the month. So go ahead and roll up. Bring those hands behind you, feet to the floor, Frank's board. Knees and feet about hip width apart and just a little side to side with your knees. A little bit of movement here. He doesn't like the next pose either. So the next pose is dragon pose. It's a lunge. We're not going to hold it as long as we typically would in a yin class. I like this blanket on my mat just because my knees are old and bony now. So we're going to do this from tabletop. So just step your right foot forward. Let's get this clock in play here. And the easier version would be to just have your hands on the mat like that. If you wanted to amp it up a little bit, you could come up to a higher version of dragon. You really get it in that hip flexor and quad if you do that. And you could also bring the hands to the floor inside and maybe even come down to your forearms, elbows. That one's a little bit more intense than I want to go today. And we're just going to do this for about 1 more minute. The next couple of poses, frankly, have potential to be rather unpleasant. If you need to back out of that lunge, feel free. You can even kind of compromise, and this makes you look like you're a great thinker. You ponder a lot of stuff. About 30 more seconds we'll do here. More. You can tell I really dislike a pose if I'm constantly giving you time updates. Hands to the floor. Back to your tabletop. Woo, maybe a little cat-cow here. And we'll step that left foot forward. I do encourage you to do the same shape on both sides. So if you had the hands on the floor, do that. If you came up, unfortunately, I did that on the other side, so damn it. Here we go. If it makes anyone feel better, I'm doing like a bunch of poses that I don't particularly care for in this class. This being one of them. Again, you can either stay upright or you can go into great thinker pose. I swear this side always takes longer. About 45 seconds to go. Well, hi, you decided to come back. Here we go, 10 seconds to go. Oi, oi, oi. And those hands to your mat. 2 choices. You could swing this left leg around and you could come into child's pose, bring those hips to the heels, or hands about shoulder width apart, and maybe you go downward facing dog. Down dog's a really good one to do at the end of the day as well. Because you get that, if you drop that weight in those heels, you get that stretch in the calves, the hamstrings. I feel it a little bit in my hips. Press those hands into the mat, and you really get that nice spinal stretch. Let's do 3 more breaths. come back down onto hands and knees. Knees about hip width apart. Curl those toes under. Try to get them all on the mat. You might have to kind of reach back to get them there. Then your hips to your heels. You could stay right here, or bring those hands to the thighs. I know we did this in that last yin for essential workers, but this is it's a great pose for you if you were putting just so much on those feet. Even if you're not working on your feet for long hours at a time, if you've taken up running or like really hard workouts, this is so good for the muscles and that connective tissue of the feet. And I hated this pose for years, but I also have a lot of issues with plantar fasciitis, and the more I do this pose, the less I have those issues. I talk a lot in this pose because I'm trying to distract you and me from it. We're going to do about 45 more seconds. You can always bring those hands to the mat to kind of dial down the intensity there if you need to. Frank has a very deliberate gait. Yeah. Is it going to help? About 10 more seconds here. Scene stealer. Hands back to your mat. Lean forward, uncurl those toes. If you want to stomp them around, feel free. Bring the ankles and the knees together. Then we're going to sit onto those heels. Now you already are going to get a stretch just by doing that in the shins and the front of the ankles. If you want more of one, take those hands behind you a bit and see if you can lift the knees about an inch off the floor. No, Siri. All right, then bring those knees back to your mat. Ooh, that one's intense, right? I'm gonna move this out of the way for just a moment. Come back into that tabletop. Maybe some movement for the feet. Maybe a little cat-cow here. Then we're gonna come back down onto our sit bones here. So again, I'm going to use this blanket to sit on the edge of. A block is going to be also very helpful to have here. So as you find your way onto the seat, and if you're sitting on a blanket, remember, you don't want to be up in the middle of the blanket. You want to be on the edge of it so that it's tipping your tailbone forward. So we're going to take our left leg out. Feet don't look too bad. You're going to see if you can stack your right knee close to maybe over that left knee. And you could either put the block here, or I will put it like low under my left ankle. And then we're going to slightly hinge forward. If you got that little bit of lotion here, we're going to give some love to this right foot while we're so close to it. We did this in that last yin for essential workers. So a little bit of lotion, and then you can just kind of give yourself a little bit of love while you're hinged forward here. So just kind of get in there and work your thumbs into the instep and the arch of that foot. And then maybe you work those right fingers in between your left fingers between right toes. And I like to keep my hands there and then just hinge forward. I keep a straighter spine in this one, just because it feels like it gets a little bit more into both hips. And if you wanted to move that block out of the way, you could also do that, because you've been in it for about 30 seconds. So you might be able to get that right knee a little bit more over that left. We're going to do a little combo of poses. we got about 45 seconds to go. So let's go ahead and free up those hands from the toes. And then maybe here you just round into it for the last little bit. You know, I think we're going to go longer. Let's make that a minute. Some will be able to get so far over that they can actually rest their head on that left or that right knee. Last 30 seconds here. So you're going to come out of this very mindfully. So maybe flex that left foot. And like we did earlier, imagine you're back against the wall and just kind of rolling up vertebrae by vertebrae. Then we're going to take that right leg, send it out to the side, and draw that left foot in. And then we're just going to bring our hands right to the front here for a little sort of half butterfly pose. So with those hands on the floor, you could be on the fingers, you could be on the palms. If you have a bolster again, you can put the bolster there. And this right leg, very slightly active to start. But it's like mine, it's also minty fresh right now. So now you can start to soften that right leg. And if it kind of rolls in or out, that's fine. Now at this point you might walk the hands further and drop towards those elbows, forearms. Again, any kind of prop could be very helpful here. And I'm going to drop my head so that I get a little bit of that roundness in my upper back again. And I'm going to let my shoulders kind of scoop forward. I have a friend who says that a lot of us look like boiled shrimp. So I'm going to embrace the boiled shrimp here. One more minute. I start to roll up here. Again, easeful and mindful are key words here. And kind of like what we did with the arms, take your legs straight out. And like my right leg is about 1/4 of an inch longer than my left leg now. All right, so we're going to take that left leg on top. And you're, again, trying to somewhat get that left knee over the right knee. We call it shoelace pose. And again, you could either have the block under that knee or maybe under this ankle, left ankle. Mine's all trying to get away. So let's give that foot some attention here. So a little bit of that lotion. I got this really great one with peppermint and tea tree, so it kind of tingles a little bit. But you do have to be careful. Don't touch your eyes or anywhere else. Ooh, this foot, so tight. So maybe you interlace those fingers, you get in there with that thumb, you give the heel some love, you get that left thumb into that arch, into that instep. Sometimes you feel things kind of moving around, sometimes you feel things pop. And then I'm going to keep my hand there, and I'm going to start my little hinge forward here. You can lose the block at any point if you want. As you stay in it, those hips start to open up a little bit. You might not feel like you need that support anymore. Then I'm going to free my hand from that foot and just kind of fold over these legs as best I can here. About 1 more minute in this shape. About 20 seconds to go. And let's start to roll up here. We're going to draw that left leg up and take it out to the side. And then draw in our right foot. And again, start with long spine here. This is so good because I don't remember who did the study, but it was a few years ago that said that you lose anywhere between 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch in your height at the end of the day. Like you're 5'10" when you leave the house in the morning, and then you're 1/4 inch shorter when you get home at the end of the day. So this is good. It keeps you from shrinking. People will be like, hey, where's Susan? And you're like, I noticed she kept getting smaller and smaller. And no one told her, hey, try yoga. And you might find you can go a little lower here. A little bit more than 1 more minute. Then we're going to do a twist, and it's like pretty much all good stuff from there. "45 seconds-ish. Cross your legs. Just find a position that feels good here. Deep breath in. Big sigh out. We're going to go onto our back. We're going to do a twist. And we'll do some nice feel good stuff here. On your back, hug that right knee. into your chest. Maybe roll that right ankle out, work out those last little bit of snaps and pops. And then I like to kind of bump my hips over to the right a little bit. Then I'm going to take my right knee over to the left, and I just drop my right arm alongside me rather than out in line with my shoulder. We're going to do 10 breaths here. This is also if you only do one thing when you get home. Get on your floor, do this. I used to get so many pops in my back when I would do this pose. Come back to the center. Send out that right leg, hugging that left knee. Again, some action for that left ankle. Maybe bump those hips to the left as you take that left knee over to the right. And again, just find the place that feels good for you to put that left arm. Then roll onto your back. Hug both knees into your chest. If you feel like going for a happy baby pose, you could do that. And then extend your legs out onto your mat. Drop your arms beside you. And just kind of wiggle through here. We're going to do sort of an abbreviated yoga nidra, and then we'll do some more breath work, and then we'll be done. So with your arms beside you and your legs out, as you inhale, flex your feet, make fist, purse your lips, hold your breath at the top. Open the mouth, exhale, soften all of that. Next inhale, flex those feet, make those fists, squeeze the glutes, pull the belly in, purse the lips, squeeze the eyes shut, hold the breath at the top. Sip in a little more breath. As you open the mouth to exhale, soften everything. This next go around, you're going to tighten everything you can. So on that inhale, start flexing those feet, tighten the muscles of the legs, the glutes, the belly, the fists, the arms, the shoulders, the lips, the eyes, maybe the head, a quarter inch off your mat. Hold the breath. Sip in more. Sip in a little more. Open the mouth, drop all of this on the floor. Wiggle out those fingers, those toes. Open and close the jaw, raise and lower the eyebrows. We're going to do a square breath or a box breath. Inhale to the count of 4. Hold for 4. Exhale for 4. Hold for 4. 3 more rounds. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Good. In. Pause. Out. Pause. One more time. Breathe in. Retain the breath. Breathe out. Retain the breath. Then a big breath in, big open mouth sigh out. If you have 3 or 5 minutes where you can stay here and just take a little mini shavasana, feel free, you'll love it. If you happen to fall asleep, you needed it. Otherwise, I'm so happy that you joined me again today for this, and I appreciate it. Namaste.